What's up, guys, and welcome back to Tech Planet. Today we're going to be making some Frankenstein pothos. Let's check it out.
Alright, well today's video is going to be a little strange, but I promise it did come from a good idea and good intentions. So every once in a while I pretty much go and play soccer in the plant room, and I kick a plant or something happens or it falls off a shelf and they end up breaking. So I wanted to know, if we actually snapped a part of our plant off, is it possible to try and graft it right back onto where you broke it off, just to keep it going as if nothing were to happen? Then I got the idea to do some really sick twisted things and start combining different plants, but that's for a different part of this video. As usual, the victim of this video is going to be Pothos. I believe this one is Mandula variety. It's a very pretty one. If you do not have this, I highly suggest it. Also, if you get one of these going up a pole, the leaves will get big, and this is really an awesome variegation variety to get big. It's really cool. But anyways, we're going to start off by making some cuts in the vine, and then we're going to try and repair it. Now, I do know there are dedicated ways to actually graft and proper ways to cut, but I wanted to experiment with a few different things just for the heck of it, I guess, just to see what works, how to join it up. Maybe there are different methods that might work better, but it was not very easy to sort of veer from the typical way. Trying to get things to match up was just a little odd, so I definitely don't recommend doing it this way. As you'll see through time, because this video is going to go over the course of a few months, you will see me try some different stuff. You may have noticed in the footage that I basically recut the same vines. That's because that first attempt, like I said earlier, there are dedicated ways, and I definitely should have just done those, but the first attempt did not work at all. I didn't even give it more than 2 minutes. I realized this is not interfacing well as I try to twist it together with the saran wrap, so that's why I just cut it and we're restarting again with almost a wedge but more of a slot look. So that's kind of what we proceed with. Once I got the cuts matched up as best as I could with the given situation and kind of how small they are, I would have liked much bigger cuttings, but I don't want to just sacrifice some of the bigger stuff I have. But I just took some saran wrap and wrapped it around nice and tight to really try and get that plant material to bond together. That'll help keep in the moisture, and hopefully the pressure and tension will keep it together so it fuses together. I'm using a really sharp razor blade for this just because it helps get the better cut and everything. I know a lot of people are going to cringe, and they do in my other videos, but I'm telling you, these things work wonders. You do have to be careful though. Because these plants are pretty thin and kind of scraggly, they're not really hardwood plants. Like a lot of grafting I see is done with trees, and it's a little different. Usually they peel back some bark and stick a little twig in there, and it seems to hold pretty good. And you have something big and solid to really wrap that saran wrap around, but I don't in this case. So I tried to use some toothpicks to create almost I want to say a stint is almost what this would look like. Say you break your arm, you can basically tape a stick to your arm to help keep the bones in place. I'm doing the same thing with the pothos just to give it a little more rigidity. I don't want it to twist around a lot in there. This was actually extremely finicky and not an easy thing to do. So if you're going to try this at home, really have some patience. It does not go on as easy as you would think in your mind. And that's probably because I'm an untrained grafter and I'm going about it all wrong. But again, we'll see some more as time goes on. Here's the part where I got sort of a sick idea inside of my head here. I wanted to see if I could make some Frankenstein plants, and I really wanted to try attaching a small piece of Monstera to the Pothos vine. I thought that might be interesting to see if they would take. I know they're not the same species, but an aroid's an aroid. Let's give it a shot. So I chopped up the Monstera cutting that I had, and we're just going to give it a shot. It's very similar to the other ones. This one I did do more of a wedge style because it fits in a lot easier. It interfaces a lot better. And again, just like the previous one, using that saran wrap, a little bit of a stint, just to keep everything holding together. Alright, about 10 days have passed, maybe a little closer to 12, I'm not really sure. And you can already see some signs here. But let's start off with a closer look at the pothos vines. Let's sort of unwrap it and see if we're starting to get anything to fuse together. Maybe it's too early, maybe it's not. Alright, so looking closer at the pothos vine cutting, after I unwrapped it nice and carefully, you couldn't see that it actually fused together. Now the fuse is not super strong yet, so I'm not going to wiggle it a lot or play around with it too much, but I'm going to reseal it up and see if a little more time will get it nice and fused, healed. Maybe it'll kind of scar over well and we'll be good to go. I did notice that there was some new growth starting before the cutting, so I'm a little nervous about that. Let's move on to the next cutting. Doing the same thing I did with the other one, just trying to slowly unwrap things and get a feel for it to make sure I'm not like prematurely doing this. I don't know what kind of time frame we are on with these kind of things because it's the first time I've tried. But if you do look after I get it unwrapped, this one is starting to fuse as well, which is pretty surprising. This might just be an instance of the plants drying together or something, I'm not sure. But I definitely assumed that we would see almost like a rejection or something. But surprisingly, it's holding pretty decently, so we'll get that wrapped back up and we'll let some more time pass. Alright, a little over a month and a half, maybe about a month and a half has passed, and let's take a look and see how they're doing. I've already got this Pothos pre-unwrapped and we can take a look at it. Things are not looking good. You can see right away why the wedge technique is probably the more superior one. Trying to do this weird slot thing did not work because I cut in a little bit too much on the slots and that part sort of like just decayed away, and you can see it got super weak and just did not do well. Looking at the Monstera, however, it's more of a wedge technique. It's holding true. It's still in there. It's still combined. It's fused pretty good. However, it's not looking super good on the actual Monstera leaf side. I don't want to give up on this idea just yet with the Pothos because that was totally my bad. So I am going to chop it and try again with more of a wedge technique. I don't know if you've noticed in the footage though, but there is a bunch of growth that started right away, which pretty much signifies that the one growth that I tried to graft on there wasn't going to make it. So let's try again by cutting that off, make more of a wedge cutting, and try and recombine them and give them some more time. I think you can really see too from this close-up of the wedge sliding in there that they interface a lot better. Still not perfect, but it's about as good as my technique can get us. I might keep pursuing this, but let's just see how this one goes. Alright, an entire month has passed since the previous footage. That puts us at over 2 months for the entire thing with the whole Monstera, and 1 month for our new Pothos attempt. Looking closely at the Pothos attempt, it sort of held in there, it sort of started to grow, but again, I think our material is just a little too small. It starts to shrivel a little bit, and then there's just not enough material for it really to hold, keep passing water, and again, my techniques are not good. I definitely need to improve them because the interfacing is just not great. There's a lot of exposed plant material, and it's just not what I expected. But I don't know what I expected, but definitely did not take. So the Pothos is a total failure. We can now take a look at the Monstera. The Monstera has definitely been the most interesting one, and I want to say the success, well, I don't know if I would call this a success because slowly, one by one, the leaves have shriveled away, and you can see it is starting to dehydrate. So basically, this thing has been going for about 3 months now, just slowly fading away. But I think we've had more success with this one simply because the materials were much thicker. And I'm also wondering whether the V-cut should be on the piece you're attaching or the piece that's already attached. Hard to describe what I'm trying to say, but I want to pursue this again. This is a failure, I would say, but I think we're on to something.
Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you enjoyed it and thought it was a little interesting. If anyone else has ever tried something like this and actually had success, please let me know in the comments what you did to make it work. I'm going to try a few different ways. I'm going to try which side I cut it on, how I fuse it together, but I really want to explore this topic. I think it's really interesting, and I like the idea of like combining plants together and seeing what I can get. So I hope you guys thought this was at least a little interesting, and as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.